I got all I want, and I got all I need, and I got everything. I got you and me. All I want, I got all I need.
Marriage is the best. So we've been going through different developmental stages and phases in marriage. I think everything is development in some form or fashion when it comes to, the human life and human existence. When you have a itty bitty baby, it's quite easy to think about development as a part of our lives because so much changes over so little time. And then when you've got these older budding children, you get to see, what does it look like for this itty bitty thing to, grow and develop and change over the course of, 10 years or 9 years or 8 years or 6 years or 2 years. And it just gives you an interesting perspective on development of life across, a short period of time, 10, 11 years, not too long of a period of time. It is really an interesting thing. So applying that to marriage, I guess this year I just was really interested in applying that to marriage. I wanted to see if we could identify the different stages of development that a marriage was going to naturally go through. The idea came basically because of marriage counseling, and then, just watching Rebecca and I move through our different phases or seasons in our lives. So I hope that you have enjoyed going through the marriage seasons or phases. Today, we're going to revisit the first two phases, and we're going to talk about what are the developmental tasks of each of these phases. I don't think I went too deep into the tasks because ultimately, when we were kind of initially talking about them, I think I was just trying to flesh out those early ideas and trying to understand kind of what could the phases look like, and developing my own thoughts and feelings and, expression of, what that can look like or what that can sound like. So the first two phases that we came up with were the honeymoon phase and this phase of disillusionment. The honeymoon phase is, or should I say, can be extremely fun and enjoyable. It can be a time of extreme expressions of connection and adventure and fun and enjoyment. And during the honeymoon phase, the primary kind of aim is to connect, to build trust and commitment, to enjoy your partner in the purest form, kind of this early pure form, where life hasn't quite gotten at it and the shine hasn't quite worn off. And I think that when you're really intentional about having fun and being playful, because you're going to need playful fun for the rest of the time, for the rest of the marriage, it's really important to make time for and focus on and create a lot of opportunities and memories of fun things to do together, fun things done together, going on adventures and creating excitement and enjoyment, whether it be in the little things or it be in like big ways, big trips, big moments. I think that when marriages are intentional about creating fun, playful time early on in the marriage, it is much easier to continue to create fun and playful time, although it does create, or it does necessitate an intentionality. But at least you've got a foundation of fun and joy and enjoying one another. In the honeymoon phase, it is probably the easiest to enjoy one another because, that low-grade psychosis that you're experiencing, that disconnect from the reality of people and flaws and, all the things that we don't really see early on in that honeymoon phase all of those, that actually helps when it comes to just pure enjoyment and connection. And that should exist in all of the forms and in all of the areas of life, right? Mentally and physically and intellectually and spiritually, all of these should be involved in your enjoyment and your pursuit of this person. Now, it's not necessarily easy just because it's maybe easiest to pursue one another in that honeymoon phase, and natural, and usually there's maybe more time to do so. But it doesn't mean it's always easy. It just means that you want to take advantage of that time, right? Like you want to take advantage of the lower grade kind of difficulty levels of pursuing and connecting and engaging and enjoying one another. So that would be kind of first and foremost, is like a shared capacity for joy and enjoyment, fun and play and delighting in one another is just part of your experience of one another. The other kind of developmental task that I was thinking about for this stage was to build safety and trust, which is kind of, it's a bit of attachment language. And that's really where the idea came from, which is, this is a relationship. And so when we think about relationship, when we think about development, attachment really is one of the best languages that we have for what we experience as human beings. Attachment is the idea of creating emotional security through responsiveness, openness, and consistency. So this task is all about being cued into the emotional reality, the physical reality, the environmental reality of your spouse, and consistently responding to that, responding with openness and curiosity. And in this season, you have a lot of energy for one another. You have a lot of passion, and you have a lot of attraction, and you have a lot of, excitement in this early stage, or at least you can. It's not always like that. It doesn't always feel like that. And disillusionment can come very quickly as a result of stress or big life changes, or a child coming into play, or all sorts of other different things that kind of shake up the honeymoon phase or decrease its strength. But ultimately, you want to be building toward safety. Safety being, how would you think about the safety? Safety would be like, it's safe to talk to you. It's safe to converse. It's safe to, bring up conflict. It's safe to talk about many different kinds of things. It's safe to talk about our intimacy life and what we're liking and not liking. It's safe to talk about, finances, etc. Now, safety doesn't mean that every time I talk to you about anything, you respond really well, right? Because none of us do that. None of us respond really well every time. But we want to be building up that sense of, you can come to me, you can talk to me, we can engage in a conversation. And even if it's hard or stressful, you can trust that we're going to have those conversations. It's also, you also want to build up a resilience to having, conversations in this phase. And part of that is building up the safety and the trust, right? I trust that you're going to handle this. Now, those things develop over time, right? Both trust and safety. That's not like a moment. It's something that is building and growing over time through consistency, through trustworthiness. Your partner is proving time and time again that they are trustworthy and that they are taking accountability or responsibility for the areas that they may be falling short. It's not that you have to be perfect, but it is that you are taking responsibility or accountability for how those conversations are going, for your trust and for, your safety, I suppose. This provides a secure base for one another, right? So now you're building out a foundation. When you are really good at enjoying one another and you are building up safety and trust, what that does is it provides kind of an emotional buffer for the disillusionment phase, right? I enjoy you. You are super fun. I can talk with you about anything. I trust you and I feel safe with you. And then when the disillusionment comes, it is not seen as, oh my goodness, I chose the wrong person because I don't trust this person, or I don't feel safe with this person, or I don't really enjoy this person, which may be the conclusion that comes once disillusionment hits, due to that sheen wearing off and the reality of life and the reality of this person coming full circle, coming into play. So you want to establish those patterns of connection for playfulness and safety. You want to practice being, trustworthy people in your relationship. Trust you with my thoughts, trust you with my feelings, trust you with my, vulnerability in sharing. So then we come up to disillusionment. So those are kind of the two primary tasks for that honeymoon stage, that early stage of relationship. So the second stage that we talked about was the disillusionment, where the reality kind of comes in and it's replacing this ideal that you had. The psychosis, which is a break from reality, the psychosis, mid-grade psychosis that was present that kind of led you into this crazy venture of marriage is wearing off. And you're coming to terms with the reality of this person, and that can be it can be a rude awakening. So there are some tasks that are involved in kind of coming through this second stage or phase. First, we want to talk about learning to confront disappointment without withdrawing. So in this phase, we want to learn to be able to engage in your disappointments, engage in your hard conversations, engage with your missed expectations, because in disillusionment, disappointment, missed expectations, and conflict start to become more regular. And so when we have conflict, when we are disappointed in one another, when our expectations are dashed upon the rocks, do we turn toward one another? Do we repair the brokenness in those moments? Or do we turn away and do we allow distance to come into play? And ultimately, we need to learn to confront these disappointments and turn toward our partners. Early on in this process of doing the podcast, I had told a story about learning about the Gottman's idea of turning toward versus turning away, and how we want to basically, marriages that turn toward each other are strong, and marriages that turn away from each other eventually fall apart and create, bitterness and resentment within the marriage. And so there was this time when I was really upset with Becca, and I remember we had this hand-me-down king bed, and it was very large. It was very large within our little space. It took up basically the entire bedroom that we were sleeping in. And so I remember laying on my side on the far wall, like facing the wall. I remember being in this massive king bed, and I remember thinking, I want to sleep so far away from this person. I just want to sleep on the very opposite side of this bed, and I don't want to touch her, and I don't want to be near her. I don't, none of that. I just want to be as far away as I possibly can. And then I recalled turning toward is part of developing a strong, sustainable marital system, and turning away leads to destruction in the system. And so in that moment, with that knowledge, with that understanding, I had a choice to make. I had to choose whether or not I was going to selfishly and immaturely, if I was going to just pout at the edge of the bed and keep myself away from her, or if I was going to mature in that moment. My mentor would say I would get over myself in that moment, and I would turn around and roll over again all the way, like 5:40 or something like that. And like snuggle in with my wife, because that's something that she very much appreciates when we're feeling distant, and basically repair the relationship, literally turn toward and repair whatever was broken. So the conflict that had arose. And it was a big moment. It was a big moment to say, I'm learning about all of these things, but am I going to actually put them into practice? And it really stunk to have to put it into practice. It's so much more, it's so much nicer to just be angry, and so much nicer to just be vitriolic and to turn away. You get a lot of adrenaline that way, to just turn away and keep away, and to stew on the reason that you turned, to stew on, what they did to cause this reaction, and to justify my response, to validate myself and to reassure myself, like, hey, you're right. She was wrong to say or do or act or behave or respond in that way. And you deserve to create distance from her because of whatever perceived wrongdoing there was. And ultimately it was it was a decision that I made because of, a growing knowledge, to get over myself and to turn toward her and to repair the relationship, knowing that was what we really needed to be doing consistently across time. And it really started with that moment of, I turn toward you and I'm going to continue to turn toward you. And that's one of the primary kind of developmental tasks, is learning to confront these disappointments, missed expectations, and conflict without withdrawing. Staying engaged in the relationship despite, missing those expectations or being disappointed in those things. So there's a bit of endurance that comes as a result of you continuously choosing to turn toward your spouse. And then the second developmental task in the disillusionment phase is this idea of kind of grounding your relationship in shared values and shared meaning, versus the grounding within the honeymoon, which is just blind passion. So we need to move out of blind passion. Like, it has to become something that we can see, something that we can rely on. And that's why we're developing trust. That's why we're developing safety. That's why we're moving through conflict and confronting disappointment. And that's why we are kind of trying to move from how I feel, all getting wrapped up in my feelings, to who we are as a couple. Who do we want to be as a couple? So we're living out our shared values. We're defining shared meaning, and we're plotting, planning out our futures together. So we have to define, why we are together beyond our feelings and beyond the passion and beyond the attraction. It has to be grounded in something else now, because those things fade. Attraction fades, passion fades, excitement fades, adrenaline fades. All of those things eventually come down, and they come down within this phase. And so in order to overcome that, we need a sense of shared value or shared meaning. We need to kind of define for ourselves and for the group, right, where we're going to go with all this. So the reason that is really important is that it prevents distance and resentment from growing in the relationship. As the disillusionment comes in, this kind of grounding allows you to move through that and be successful into moving into teamwork, which is going to be phase 3. It also transitions the relationship from a place of fragility to a place of more intentionality. And that's what you're going to need throughout the entirety of the teamwork phase is strength and resilience, rather than kind of a fragile surface level relationship. Really, moving through these two tasks creates a foundation for effective teamwork. And that's where we want to go. So those are the tasks of these first two developmental phases of marriage. If you have any thoughts or questions on these phases or stages of relationship, if you want to, you want us to dive further into anything or answer any questions about it, feel free to reach out. We've got an email at marriageisthebest@yahoo.com. Yes, we still use Yahoo, and it's still a thing. We hope that you are moving through your developmental tasks as best as you can. Knowledge is really powerful and important in development, right? So when you're parenting a small child, when you see a behavior and you think that it is, when you erroneously kind of describe that behavior as something that is inappropriate or something that is maybe defiant, when in actuality that person is simply developing, those errors in judgment, those errors in understanding our children, they come out in really kind of harsh and critical and difficult and destructive ways. So when we can understand the development of our relationships or our children or the development of anything, how anything develops over time, when we have that knowledge, we can apply it to our lives and to our relationships, and we can find much more success in moving through the different, tasks and things that need to be done. When we don't understand honeymoon or disillusionment or teamwork or renegotiation or the disruption or the ultimate phases of relationship, we miss opportunities to move through these things well. The knowledge can equip us and give us the tools that we need in order to do a great job so that we're not kind of setting up ourselves or our systems for failure in the future. Ultimately, what we're looking for is sustainability in our marriages and that they would last forever, that they wouldn't fall into the traps of bitterness and resentment and blame, and that instead that they would grow, that we would be mature people and we would be able to grow mature marital systems so that our children could inherit those mature marital systems, that they would be inspired to be married, that they would be inspired to have lots of children, that we would grow as a society and as a culture in the area of marriage so that our society and our culture can thrive and that it can be a beautiful place. So, beautiful places and beautiful cultures and beautiful societies come from beautiful marriages and well-rounded people and mature people. And in order to get there, we've got to have these really strong foundations and we've got to move through these tasks in a healthy way. And that's what we've got for you today. So we hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave a 5-star review anywhere you can find us. That would be much appreciated. Listen to this one, listen to all the other ones. I think we're like 76 or something like that. We'll just keep grinding them out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we look forward to catching you later. This is
All I want, and I got all I need.